Good evening. This is James Robert Deal. Welcome to the J.R. Deal News. Today is September the 16th, 2018. That's my song you're hearing in the background. I'll play it at the end of the show. The topic for discussion tonight is buying real estate in partnership. There are people who can't afford the payments on even a starter home, even if they could get around the down payment problem. And even though they did obtain down payment assistance, which is available from the state of Washington, the payments are just too high. So one of the solutions is to buy a duplex and get two families together that trust each other and have a partnership agreement among the two families, own the duplex or the triplex jointly, or buy one big single-family home and have two or three families live in it. And we're talking about extended families where grandma lives with the family and she contributes her Social Security, and then the parents live there and some of the children live there. And so you have 4 incomes, 6 incomes, enough to support the purchase of a larger home. So this would enable more people to become homeowners. It's important that you have a place to lay your head, a place to call home. I look at the family next door. They're from the Philippines, and there are probably 8 people living over there. Grandma's living there. Grandpa died. She has a Social Security income. Then there's the father and several of his sons and daughters and their spouses. And so they save a lot of money by living together. And someday that home will be owned by the children and maybe by the grandchildren. Now, I have a friend who works for us. She comes and cleans our home on weekends, and she would like to own a home. So we've been brainstorming as to how they could accomplish that. The least expensive home I can find for them would involve going up to Marysville, and this is a 1,000 square foot house that costs $260,000 with FHA payments would probably still be over $2,000 a month. I don't necessarily recommend a condo. You know, they do cost less, but then you've got a condominium maintenance fee to pay, which really jacks up your out-of-pocket. And a lot of that money is spent just handling the money and doing work which you could do yourself if it were your own property. You can mow your own grass, and occasionally you can paint areas that need painting, and you can sweep out your own rain gutters, so you don't need a $300 or $400 a month maintenance fee. You also should be aware that there are numerous down payment assistance programs. Most prominent in the state of Washington is one by the State of Washington Housing Fund. It's not free, but it's a second position loan. Let's say that you need to pay 3.5% down to qualify for FHA. Well, the State of Washington will lend you up to 4% of the purchase price, and it'll be secured on the back end. There will be no interest accumulating and no monthly payments on this part of your financing. So you can buy a home zero down. And there are companies which specialize in down payment assistance. And I urge you to look into that, because the sooner you become a homeowner, the sooner you'll start building some equity in your home. Now, I've tried investing in the stock market, and I've never made money in the stock market. It seems like whenever I buy stock, the price immediately goes down. And whenever I sell stock, the price immediately goes up. I seem to have some magical control over the stock market. But I have made money in real estate. You just buy it and try to get a tenant in there so it breaks even and wait. And of course you have to fix things, and you're responsible for that. But for me, it's the only investment that has paid off. So how would you buy in partnership? Well, I'm discussing this with my house cleaner. She's now got a job paying $12.50 an hour, and her husband makes $20.50 an hour. And she's got a job on the side, which averages her about $400 a month. So together they have an income of about $6,500 a month, and they can qualify for payments that are about 40%, maybe even more, of their gross income. So 40% of $6,000 is $2,400 a month. And so with that amount per month, one person can get into a home at about $350,000. With FHA, with taxes, insurance, with FHA mortgage insurance, all these add up. But I just quickly did a search for duplexes. And I went north because prices are lower further north. And in Everett, I found an up and down duplex that was on the market for $415,000. So I ran the math. And it's $420,000, and if they could get together with a trusted couple that have two or more incomes, then put all four of those incomes together and qualify for an FHA loan and obtain down payment assistance from the state of Washington to cover the 3.5% down payment, they now both have a place to live. And instead of a purchase price of $350,000 for a small starter home, they've got an up and down duplex with about 1,500 square feet for each family. And instead of buying a house for $420,000, they're buying it for $210,000 each, and the total payments are going to be about $1,500 a month for each family. Now, they're going to need a partnership agreement. You need to be doing this with somebody that you can trust. So it may take you a while to find somebody that you can trust. Now, as part of my service, if I'm going to be your buyer broker, helping you find a property and test it out, inspect it, make sure that it's sound, I'll also provide you with a partnership agreement. Now, it will be my proposal for how the two can work together, what they would do if one of the couples wanted to sell out, or one of the couples was unable to make their payments, and what would happen if the other couple had to fill in the gap. So it's important to have a clear partnership agreement. Now, because I'm representing both of the buyers in the purchase, I really would have a conflict in producing a partnership agreement that would be acceptable and equally protective of both. So what I would do is provide a first draft of a partnership agreement and advise each of the buyers to go have it checked by his or her own attorney. So I've done many partnership agreements. There's sometimes a challenge because you have to talk with people about what their concerns are and their needs are. But it's a service that I can provide as an attorney/broker. My website is WashingtonAttorneyBroker.com, and you can go there and search for Buy Real Estate Partnership. I'll give you a commercial message here and say the call is free. I work throughout the state of Washington. I advise buyers and sellers. I take listings and I work with buyers here in the local area, and throughout the state I'll co-broker with other brokers. So if you're a broker in Spokane and you're putting together a deal that is outside your pay grade, that's going to involve some custom drafting because of seller carrying back a second, or maybe it's the sale of commercial property, or maybe it's farmland that's not conforming, so there's no loans available, so it's only on seller financing. Or let's say that one of the owners has died and some help is needed getting the property into probate. Now, I don't file probates, but in this state, we can often do a no probate affidavit and totally avoid having to file an expensive probate. I would also advise people that I do estate planning up to large estates. I don't do large estates because you're going to need a tax expert. But there is no federal inheritance tax up to $5 million. So in most cases, a trust will with power of attorney, durable power of attorney, directives to physicians, medical power of attorney, and personal property addendum is sufficient. So the durable power of attorney is superior to a general power of attorney in that a general power of attorney ceases to be effective when the principal is unconscious or incompetent. So if you need to do something financially for grandma and she's unconscious in hospice, a regular power of attorney would cease to be effective, but a durable power of attorney would continue to be effective even though the person is unconscious or incompetent. Now, all powers of attorney cease to be effective when a person dies. So what happens to property when somebody dies? Well, the will is produced and a probate is filed. Or, if you've planned ahead, you can use a no probate affidavit. In this state, that we have automatic vesting at the time of death, so all you need is an affidavit stating, here's the death certificate, here's the will, and record those, and the title company will insure title just based on the affidavit. So that's a service I can provide for people. Now, you may get boxed into filing a probate if there's some assets that can't be transferred by affidavit. For example, a bank account. A bank account in John's name only doesn't transfer. The banks are very conservative about that. The wife comes in and says, I need to withdraw my deceased husband's money. And they say, nope, we need letters testamentary. So go open a probate. Come back with letters testamentary and we'll give you the money. If that's what the ruling of the court is. So that's why I advise people with your stock accounts, with your bank accounts, at least have a POD, pay on death provision of those accounts. Or have an additional signer on the account so that you can avoid probate. Now, you also would be well advised to have a personal property addendum to your will. The state of Washington allows you to leave your tangible personal property according to the terms of a personal property addendum, which you can keep in the top drawer and you can change it anytime you want. Now, a regular will can't be changed unless you have 2 witnesses and a notary, and have somebody draw up the codicil to the will or draw up a new will. But with tangible personal property, cars, boats, jewelry, You can merely cross things out, initial it, or make a new personal property addendum and say, I'm leaving my Buick to my grandson George so that he can go out on dates with girls at school. That comes to mind because when my grandpa died, he left me his black and white two-tone four-hole Buick, which I drove to and from school and which the girls liked. So, feel free to call. I'd be glad to give you a preliminary consultation at no charge, determine if I could possibly help you. 425-774-6611. My radio program comes on Sunday evenings. At 8 o'clock, I talk about political issues, environmental issues. At 9 o'clock, I talk about real estate issues. I am now going to close out with a song that I wrote, and it is a new version, my version of the Our Father. I've never liked all the many existing Our Fathers, and so I decided to write my own. And I added a phrase, a line, that's not found in the 3 different versions of the Lord's Prayer, which we have. 2 of them are in the New Testament, one's in the Didache. So I added a line that is suggested in the Epistle of James, because James focuses on the poor, the orphans, and the widows, and helping those in need. So the additional line says, give us this day our daily bread, as we share with those in need, which is something that the prophet Jesus and his younger brother James would have agreed with. So until next week, or until you call, this is James Robert Deal, bidding you adieu this September 16th, 2018. Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven up above. Give us this day our daily bread, we share with those in need. Forgive us our wrongs as we forgive others' wrongs, and may we not be tested, but if we are, may we survive the test. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven up above. Give us this day our daily bread, as we share with those in need. Forgive us our wrongs as we forgive others' wrongs, and may we not be tested, but if we are, may we survive the test. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever